parallel universes are a thing. So just like, let's start on that. I've seen the Mandela Effect on Hulu. I haven't, but check out my shirt though. You guys see my shirt? All right. If you know, you know. But we were talking about how like in parallel universes, like not all like timelines will technologically advance at the same rate. So if you were able to sort of communicate with, and if I don't have a chance to answer your question, guys, feel free to answer. Thank you. Feel free to ask the question again, because I do want to kind of address what's going on, but I also don't want to like get like ADD and distracted. Thank you. But I searched really long and hard for this shirt, by the way. But we were talking about parallel universes, and I was like, you know, if we were, like, if I was in an alternate timeline, right, and I was an author, and I was writing a story about, like, our world, yeah, but I was from, like, a timeline that was less advanced, and maybe, like, their technology, it was, like, the 1800s, right? So they haven't conceptualized like cars or cell phones or anything like that. But somehow, as an author, I'm able to tap into the Akashic records and kind of view our reality. I would consider our world, right? People from a parallel universe would look at our world and would basically consider us like magicians, right? Think about it. So we're riding in metal chariots, right? And that would be our cars, right? Going like, was it 200, 300 horsepower, or whatever, going faster than 300 horses, right? So imagine our world, try perceiving our world from the perspective of somebody in a parallel universe who maybe like it's still 2021 for them, but their technology is like still in the 1800s, and that author is like, I need to write a story, and they conceptualize our world to them, and like, you guys jump in if it sounds, you know, if it sounds like interesting or like this makes sense, right? Feel free to interact with me so I don't feel like I'm like, you know, losing you guys. But to them, cell phone is a philosopher's stone, right? To them, our technology, like, we all look like magicians, right? So even if you're like unable or not quite ready to play with the idea of parallel universes, even if you just set it back in time to somebody from like the 1800s, right, thinking about or being able to perceive our, being able to perceive our timeline, like, or the future, we look like magicians. Like, I'm talking to a room full of people, 30 people in here right now, that can see me, and we're interacting in real time. This is magic. So I love shows that are about like science fiction, but I also love shows that are about like magic, because I do think that they do sort of interlap. So that's a long way of sort of explaining why I like the Shadow and Bone show. Do you think the creators of The Simpsons, for example, have tapped into the Akashic records? I think everybody does. Like, how fairy tales can potentially be from parallel universes. Yeah, exactly. Like, think about it, guys. Like, infinite realities, infinite parallel universes. What is possible? People who love Rick and Morty, like, there's like episodes where they'll have like Rick and Morty like turn into like shrimp or like just different sort of species, right? So instead of like the bodies being like evolved from apes, like they evolved from like prawns or whatever, right? Everything is probable. Nothing is impossible. Everything is probable. So if that's the case, then it's not really that far-fetched. So a lot of the stuff that I talk about in my videos sounds far-fetched on surface, like, you know what I mean? Like on like at first glance. But if you really sit back and think about it, they're not improbable scenarios. Like, it is possible for there to exist a world where, you know, a lot of the things that we read about do actually happen. Sounds like a book like you read. The PhD chemistry student ended up in seems magic real. I believe magic is real. And certainly people who are not in the West, not in Western societies, also believe that magic is real. I'm Nigerian. I'm born and raised in Nigeria till I was like 10. And I've listened to the stories, you know, when I was younger, and my mom would tell me the things that they like experience in Nigeria, like particularly like where she grew up, like in her village. I would kind of like raise an eyebrow because I just didn't think that those things were possible. But the way she spoke about it, like she would talk about like, let me know if you guys want me to tell you, but the way she spoke about these things, like it was real to her. you know. And as I've gotten older and I've started doing a lot more like research and reading on, like, there's a book called like The Hidden Universe, for example, by Anthony Peake. I'm like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like we're so like programmed to be like, I don't want to say closed-minded, but to perceive reality in just one way, like in the West, that other people in other countries are perceiving reality completely differently than the way we do. And perhaps we should sort of respect their perception of reality, and I don't think we do. But magic is perspective, absolutely. And thank you. So I just missed that, definitely. I'm so fascinated by all the cultures. Exactly. The Western world is worrying. I mean, I'm grateful for the Western world in one way. You get it? Because like, I don't know, like if you listen to people from other countries who genuinely like experience a different type of reality, a lot of the things that they talk about is a little wild, you know, like my mom would say, my mom would tell me about like when she was younger, if like the power would go out, she'd be in her, you would be in a room and it would just be completely dark, right? So there's like no electricity, the power's gone out. And then she would like, you would feel things in the room. And sometimes even like you will see people kind of walk through walls and stuff like that. And the thing is, when people believe in things, it almost like their collective belief in a particular type of reality causes certain things to happen. So in a way, I'm actually grateful to live in a society where the collective consciousness is to disbelieve that those kind of things are possible. Because I don't know how I would feel if I was just like chilling in the house and like something just like walked into my space. That's not really kind of, you know, a comfortable, I'd rather read about that kind of stuff than like have to interact with it. Cause yeah, that's low-key kind of scary, you know? But people say magic isn't real, but what is religion? We speak things into existence. Big facts. I think darkness allows our imagination to run wild. Yes. So there is a book called The Immortality Key, and in it, the author, I can't remember his name right now, but he talked about how like people in the past would like go into caves. They would go into, what happened to you at age 7? But people in the past would go into caves to have like religious experiences. And what we think of, let me see if I can even like remember this so I can recall this perfectly, or as close to perfectly as I can. But what people in the past, like, so people right now, when they take like the Eucharist, it's like consumption of the body and blood of Christ, low-key cannibalism. But people 2,000 years ago, it was like an offshoot of the cult of Dionysus, right? And the cult of Dionysus said you drink the blood of their god was wine. Dionysus was the god of wine. So when you would drink his blood, you would drink their wine. And it's not like the wine that we've come to sort of understand as like wine now. The wine of like 2,000 years ago had some like psychedelic stuff in it. Like it would like take you out. So they would take psychedelics, and then the body of their god or whatever was like a psychedelic, like some have theorized that it's mushroom, and that's what the author talked about in The Immortality Key. So I want to make sure I'm not like ignoring you guys too. So ready for the show next month that I keep thinking you're saying low-key, not low-key. Maybe I am saying low-key. But so 2,000 years ago, wine was not what we thought, what we kind of consume now. It was different. They would put a bunch of different stuff in there. It's typically women. And it would make people not just drunk, but like legit, like hallucinate. And so when people would hallucinate, that was their communion with the gods. So they would see like beings that were sort of like non-corporeal or, you know, non-humans. And that's what they would do. They would also go into deep recesses of caves, because what caves serve to do is to more or less suppress the senses, right? So you can't see in the cave. It's usually quiet. But it's the same thing as like when I don't know if you guys have ever tried one of those float tanks. Same concept, but they were doing it 2,000 years ago. Like the burning bush of Moses was a tree in Yemen that emits ayahuasca when it's burned. I did not know that, but that would make a ton of sense. Can you see my husband? He's not here right now. We need to get a couple of those bushes. You guys are funny. That's a sensory deprivation. Yeah, so that's why they would... that is not a picture of me in the background. every painting I put up, everybody is like, somebody always comments like, is that you? I'm not, I mean, I'm vain to a certain point, but I'm not like that vain where I just like keep painting myself. At least I don't think of that vain, but it's not meant to be me. They're all different women. And it is my artwork. Yes, that is not a picture of me in the background. Which one do you think is the picture of me, by the way? Like this one or this one? Because neither of them are me. I've only ever painted like one self-portrait, I think. And like when you look at it, like you can tell it's me. But it's not me. Show some real billionaire energy sitting under a painting of yourself. I know, right? I mean, that would be pretty cool if I just like post it up. Maybe the next time I do a live, I'll post a. I can't even do that because the one painting that I do have of myself is it's well, I would like get banned for posting it because like it's like a topless painting and they're not my boobs, but but it's okay. So I'm not trying to get banned again from live. So I make sure that everybody's fully clothed in the painting now. I learned my lesson. How much do you commit? I try to paint about 4 to 8 hours a day. So even when I finish this live, I'm going to work. But I just wanted to make sure that I reach out to you guys and, talk to you guys before I get back to work. I'm in my, I think I can turn it around. Do you guys want to see kind of part of my studio? I can turn the camera around. That's funny. So yeah, what if death is a real escape from this reality? I like that. Have you ever painted what you envision one of your parallel selves to look like? I sort of actually played with the idea of like, what if this is what I'm doing? So I keep painting, like I paint like a fiend, yeah? And then people come and look at the art and then they say the same thing you guys are saying, like, is that you, is that you? And like, I learn as much from people who speak about my art as I do, just from like reading and everything like that. And I like listening to what people have to say. And at one point I did pause and go like, what if people are seeing something that I'm not seeing? Like I definitely am not just repeatedly painting myself over and over again. That's not my style, intentionally. But what if I am sort of low key either painting people that I've interacted with in past lives? Because I legit, it's not even a matter of beliefs. Like I know reincarnation. I don't know what just popped up on my screen, but that was awesome. I just saw some hand hearts. That was dope. But I kind of wonder if like, I'm painting people that I've interacted with in past lives. You know what I mean? This particular series where it's, it's different women of color and they are dressed in this kind of like attire. It's a lot, there's a lot going on, but I low-key, well, no, I high-key actually, call it art from an alternate universe. And so what the concept behind this one is, what would paintings from the 1800s and the 1700s look like if like there were, like slavery wasn't a thing, if misogyny wasn't a thing, right? If, women were kind of, especially women of color, were actually like on equal footing in that time period. What would those paintings look like? And that's what, these, if you see any paintings, like going forward too, I always have a painting on my background now, but you'll see like have that, but I also blend it because I like duality. If you guys haven't noticed, somebody called me, yeah, exactly, decolonizing the Renaissance. I like how you put that. Somebody called it, what do they call it? Somebody called me the queen of duality. And I thought, if you pay me, I don't cry. Don't cry. But somebody, oh, thank you. Like you, I'm not just painting myself over and over again, but somebody called me the queen of duality. And I love that because I do like playing with like opposites and putting it together. I like what it does to the brain. You know what I mean? So what I did was also, I am not a Gemini. I probably should have been, and maybe I was in a past life. But I am a Virgo. That's a good guess. But so what I've done here too is not only do we have like, we have a, like a brown skin lady and a caramel skin lady going on, right? But then I also, if you look at the body, there's a decidedly masculine body. right? So very broad features. So there's energy here, feminine, very feminine faces, very masculine body. And if you see the entire, I'm not an Aquarius, I'm a Virgo. If you see the entire painting, it exudes a strength, but there's also like a lot of like a feminine, like I love her expression. Like it's just sort of like, you know what I mean? Like, look at that expression. I love that expression. But I also love the softness of like her face. So I play with that a lot, and I do that intentionally. I do that intentionally with my art. What happened when you have constantly by the dream? Have the same dream, you mean? I'm not Aquarius. How are you gonna tell me what my birth sign is? Thank you. Yeah. Can we see the whole painting? I kind of, there you go. Can you guys see that? The problem with this is like with anything, everything gets kind of lost in translation, right? On your little screen, you know what I mean? So it doesn't do it justice. One of these days, I'm gonna like have a show, and like I'm not even trying to sell the pieces. Like I want you guys to just like come through and just look at them, and then just like have a nice conversation. I want to hear what you guys think about them and how they make you feel and what you're perceiving, right? Everybody's like, oh, how much of the paintings, cost? And I kind of play with the idea, but ultimately that's not my thing. Like I want them to be seen, and I want people to talk. No, exactly. I want people to talk about them. I need them to be seen. If I sell them to somebody, because I don't make prints, if I sold them to somebody, then they get taken away, and then people who need to see it don't see it, So that's kind of my drive. Sell for a few million. Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you. Somebody mentioned my shirt. This is, I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you guys see the shirt? I don't know how to get it to focus. Shirt is surprisingly hard to find. It is one of the Mandela effects. I actually went through and I took a permanent marker and I changed that. I changed that because I'm sorry, but for me, it was stunning. Lady on your left sparks childhood memories for me for some reason. That's dope. I like that. Wait, is this painting a part of a series? It is. So it's part of my, I call it Art from an Alternate Timeline. So I have a few of them on my Instagram page as well, but I call it Art from an Alternate Timeline. And as I was explaining earlier, what I'm imagining is, Renaissance art or Victorian art or Georgian art, whatever. But from a timeline where slavery was not ever a thing, and misogyny was not ever a thing. So that's what these are, and I'm still working on it. And somebody was like, you need to start painting men. So I meant to kind of find that comment. Like I saw the comment on my comment thread or whatever. And sometimes I get so many comments, it's like I try to respond and I don't. But I am working on a piece right there, right now. I'm gonna show you guys real quick. You guys ready to see part of my studio? I don't even know if you guys can see that, but that piece right there, I don't know if it's showing up. This is part of my studio. But I am working on a piece, and I have painted my second male character. So he will be making an appearance in one of my videos in whenever I finish that, a couple of weeks, maybe a month. It takes some time. So these pieces take a long time. So yeah, your ideas blow your mind. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch them, to comment on them, to let me know what you think or how they make you feel. Like I said, the underlining sort of theme is, people are like, these are things that I've talked about or I think about, and I'm just glad to see other people thinking the same thing. So I like that. That makes me happy. Yeah, there was a book I read about like the Black Madonna being venerated in parts of Europe still, and I was reading a book about immortality because why not? But please be polite because I have a mirror facing back. Do you dream? Can you tell us a recent dream? I do dream. I think everybody dreams. I think we just forget our dreams unless they're super intense. Okay, if you guys haven't picked up yet, I am really weird. I'm a really weird person. And I'm okay with being weird. But I sometimes do kind of little like weird things. Thank you, appreciate that. And so a couple of days ago, I just had like a random idea. So you know how like the government now is starting to say like, okay, I agree with you. Whoever said, I agree with you, Albano 438. I do agree. Immortality can kind of seem like a curse, but depends on how you perceive our world. So I'll get back to that hopefully. But gosh, where was I going? I lost my train of thought. I have to come back to that because I forgot what I was talking about. If you guys remember what I was talking about, you want to remind me, I appreciate it. I've always remember my dreams. Oh, I was weird. Yeah, okay, so I was being weird. So a couple of days ago, I was sitting and I was thinking, like, I had a thought pop into my head about, like, aliens at first, right? So the government first said, you laughing at me. So the government was like, aliens aren't real, aliens aren't real, right? Remember that? They were all like, no, it's swamp gas, it's a weather balloon, all that bullshit. And then like a couple of weeks ago, they're like, yeah, there's some stuff that's happening. And like this whole past year, they've just been releasing videos and putting it out there in the mainstream. And then like they were just like, yeah, there's some shit out there, we don't know what it is. Do with this information what you will. And then they just kind of left it, you know? Don't be shy, I have a lot of eyes watching you. I'm not even like, that doesn't even bother me so much. I always have eyes watching me, like all my paintings are looking directly at you. So people looking at me don't really make me anxious. But then I was thinking, I was like, you know how like they tend to like the media will like ridicule people who are like conspiracy theories and call them all nuts, right? And then like later on, they'll like admit that the stuff that the conspiracy theorists have been saying were actually true. Like they keep doing that. Like that's been happening since like forever. Like conspiracy theorists or whatever will come out and say like, this is going on. And then the government will be like, those people are crazy. And then like later on, they'll be like, yeah, that's actually going on. Sorry. Then I was like thinking about like tinfoil hats. There's a point to the story, by the way. And thank you. But there's a point to the story. So I was thinking about tinfoil hats. And you know how like they demonize, the government gaslights the fuck out of us. Like, I'm laughing. It's not funny though. Like it's really kind of messed up when you like legit think about me. No conspiracy theory has ever been true. Okay. But so I was thinking like how like every time they like show like conspiracy theories or whatever, like they have them wearing like tinfoil hats, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, tinfoil hats. I was legit gonna do a live today with like a tinfoil hat on, but I just got my hair done and I was like, nah, I don't wanna mess up my hair. But I was like, what if there's something about tinfoil hats that they don't want people to like, I don't know, like put on their hats? I don't know. This is how my mind works. So I just have random thoughts and then like I see it through. So I got a bunch of foil. This is me, guys. Like I seem very serious in my videos, but I'm weird. Okay. So I was like, all right, legit, let's go. So I grabbed a bunch of foil and I made like a hat and I put a tinfoil hat on my head. Yeah. And I'm just like chilling. Like, just hanging out with a tinfoil hat on my head. Like, let's see what happens. Guys, it was weird. Like, I felt nauseous. Like, I'm not making this up. And I don't know, it might have been like a nocebo effect. Like, I might have done it to myself because I was just like, let's see what happens. So I may have manifested the symptoms that I experienced. That's a possibility. Like, I understand the power of the mind. But when I had my tinfoil hat on, I like my mind was really quiet. Like my mind was like legit quiet. And I was like, this is weird. Like, how come I'm not having any thoughts? Yeah. And then I felt like a little nauseous. Get quiet. And I was like, this is weird. Like, how come I'm not having any thoughts? Yeah. And then I felt like a little nauseous. So I took it off. Like I felt uncomfortable. Like I was like, oh, this is weird. Like what's going on? You know, like imagine walking down the street in tinfoil hat. I'm going to do that one day. Like, fuck it. Like, you guys try it. Just try it. Try it and then DM me if you feel anything. Like if you notice anything different. Because I did. And then here's how weird I am. I want to get to your guys' comment, but I want to finish my story. Here's how weird I am. I was like, fuck it. Like I'm sleeping with this. So I feel sorry for my husband. So I was like, I'm going to bed. So I put the tinfoil hat on my head and I legit slept in a tinfoil hat. Do it. Halloween. That'd be great. You just tell people your conspiracy theories for Halloween. It probably makes their signals. You don't know. Sounds like you freaked yourself out. I probably did. I did freak myself out because I was freaked out. But I wrapped a bunch of, I have like my little hat on. I went to sleep, guys, with my tinfoil hat on. And then like I woke up in the middle of the night because my dreams were hella vivid. Guys, they were vivid. Like I was watching a show. And I was like, let me go ahead and take this shit off my head. I don't know what I'm doing to my brain while I was sleeping. So that's what I did like legit like 2 days ago. I'm weird. Like, don't let the serious, you know, video voice and I'm telling you guys the story. Because half the time I'm smirking or whatever. But I'm not that serious of a person. Like, I do weird shit all the time. And that was like my most recent thing. But, you know, I did Google. Believe this or not, there was actually guys at MIT, like they did research on tinfoil hat, and they did say that it blocks certain signals. So it's not as far-fetched. It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. So I don't know. How much tinfoil did you use? I'm unrolling some right now. So I did 2 layers and then like just like wrapped around my head. But like I'm going to do more. Like I'm I'm gonna do more, and I'm gonna just make it thicker. From what I read, I think I saw it was like a Medium write-up about it, like a Medium article. And from what I read, they said like it had to be like 2 inches thick or something like that. And I've got a lot of foil, so like I'm gonna do it. I'm literally wearing a tinfoil bonnet right now. That's awesome. That's amazing. My head hurts. See, okay, if you're assuming you're not joking, it's weird. Like it makes you feel some type of way. Like it made me feel. I can't speak for y'all. Maybe you guys will have a different experience. But I personally, and it could have been a nocebo. I could have done it to myself. Maybe just my expectation of something weird happening made something weird happen. But I fell off. Like I fell off. So just putting it out there. I don't know what you. Google it. Google. So what led me to do that? I swear to God, my skull is warm and disgusting. Okay, take it off. But I did have that kind of empty-minded like feeling, which is interesting. Make tinfoil hat and attach batteries around and place phone on top to charge. Oh my God, the phone is making my eyes hurt. Just kidding. Please don't do it. Yeah, that person suggested about phone, don't do that. But, you know, they say that your brain, okay, jokes aside, this is legit. Thank you. But legit, what I've read about the body, okay, so you have your consciousness, which is who you really are. Tinfoil hat self after this. Yo, guys, just do it. One of these days, I'm gonna do a serious ass, one of these days, if I can gather up the nerve, I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna do a very serious video about something very profound. And I'm just gonna deliver it serious as hell, but I'm gonna be wearing a tinfoil hat and just act like I don't have like an aluminum hat on my head. DM me and let me know what happens bad. But there is a book about how like your consciousness is vast. There's several books about this. Even like neuroscientists have written about this. And they say that you have consciousness, and consciousness is capable of all these sort of things, right? And then, please stop. Your consciousness is capable of all of these like sorts of like really great things, but then you get sort of uploaded into the body. That's, you know, terminology. You get uploaded into the body, and then the body acts as like a limitation, like it limits your experience so that you can only perceive a certain type of reality. So for example, right, a dog, right, can see. A dog's perception of reality is completely different than ours, right? They smell things differently. They see things differently. Same with bees, right? Bees perceive reality completely different. So there might be things like, I don't know if you guys have pets, but if you watch your pets, like sometimes they kind of like just look, you know what I mean? You're like, hey, what are you looking at over there? You know what I mean? And then they like turn. So you really don't know what they are seeing, you know? How do I know, how do we, I'm not Jamaican, I'm Nigerian. Somebody just asked, how do you know she's not one of them? That's funny. Electromagnetic spectrum is, and we can only see visible light. Exactly. Bees don't even fly, they just vibrate at a really high rate. That's dope. Cats do that a lot. You know, I think some entities live in other bits of the spectrum. Exactly. So that's what I mean. Like a lot of the stuff that I talk about on my videos, they seem far-fetched on the surface. But if you take the time to sort of start breaking down like the science behind it, they're not as far-fetched as they sound. Like there's a video I did about parasitic non-corporeal entities that perhaps may have infected the human race. And on face value, it sounds crazy as shit, right? Like I should, you know what I mean? Like it sounds crazy. But then I read a book called Entangled Life by, I think, what's his name? Sheldrake. Sheldrake was the last name. But Entangled Life. And it was about fungi and, you know, mushrooms and things of that nature. And in that book, it talked about how life forms can actually come to our planet and do come to our planet. It's not in the form of like, you know, grays or whatever, right? That's on a macro level. But on a micro level, let's focus on the micro level. I love this emoji, by the way. It's like my favorite emoji. I want to get a t-shirt done where it's just this. But you can have life forms that come to our planet in bacteria or, you know, fungi and things of that nature. In like cosmic dust or in, they're called like micro meteorites. Yeah. And that happens all the time. So it's not that far-fetched that a parasitic fungi could come to Earth and infect the human race and cause us to sort of manifest just negative energy. It's not far-fetched. It just sounds kind of wild if you take it, you know, at face value. It sounds kind of wild. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was our spaceship with Adam and Eve. That's wild, but it sounds wild on you know, on face value, but I'm sure I could find some books that could support that theory. Like, it's not, when you sit back and you think about it. So if you go and read Genesis, I'm not, you know, I'm not, you know, religious by any means, but I do love reading, and I like reading between the lines. The story of Genesis, if you guys want to look into this, feel free. The story of Genesis legit reads like a story of like an alien life form coming to Earth to like terraform this planet, because it says like the spirit of God was like hovering above the waters or whatever, so it came to Earth. I'm not saying that it's real or not real, I'm just saying this is what it reads like. It reads like a story of a terraform. So you have a spirit of gods or whatever, the Elohim, and it's like hovering above the waters, all over the stillness of the waters. So if you look at that and you take that, it basically, there was water already on Earth, right? If you go and you read Genesis. So the gods didn't create water. They came to Earth and then there was water, right? And when I read the Spirit of God, I always imagine like a spaceship floating above water, and then they start separating the water, and by separating water, then Earth comes up, right? And then from the Earth, they started sort of like terraforming the planet. Read Genesis again, but read it with like a sci-fi mind, because it legit reads like a sci-fi story. Then it said, let there be light, and they could have just like, you know, that could have been just nuclear fusion or whatever, right, to create the sun. Like, it reads like science, at least the first few chapters. But the gods in Genesis didn't like create water. They came to a world where water already was, and then they separated the water to expose the land, and then they started, you know, messing with stuff. So I don't know. That's just my sort of perspective there. But yeah. So what else are you guys doing? There's a lot of people on here for Monday evening. Where are you guys from? Are you guys East Coast, West Coast? Saw Zeitgeist when I was 16 on shrooms too. Zeitgeist, what is that? Is that a movie? Is that a show? Where do you feel like the ghost who drives your body lives inside of you? That's almost basically what you're asking, is like, where is the Midwest, DC, East Coast? You guys aren't tired? What time is it over there? There's a lot of East Coast people. Welcome. Portland. It's good. It's a documentary. I should watch it. Mirror. Why is everybody from the East Coast? Puerto Rico. What time is it right now? The show The 100 has a great view into how, a couple of people have mentioned the The 100. Yeah, hi neighbors. Like, you guys talk to each other. Washington. Yeah, well, that's West Coast. You're on my timeline. I have to go to work soon. Wait, you working the night shift? Everybody's from the DMV. What? Watch Zeitgeist. I'll check it out. Sun worship. Yeah, well, kind of. I try to stay away from religious conversations because even though I love mythology, I could talk about that stuff all day. There are people who, genuinely believe in, books and holy books and what's written in there, and they take it at face value. So I try not to disrespect their beliefs in any way, especially in a public sphere. So I try to stay away from that, at least in a public sphere. Now with my friends, we have these sort of discussions all the time, and it's just sort of more of a matter of fact discussion, like saying to my friends, hey, I think that Genesis is actually discussing terraforming of Earth, that kind of thing. But I'll definitely check it out. Hey, somebody's from London. Hey, London. What time is it there? It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. You're up early. It shows a different perspective. Yeah, I'll check it out for sure. DMV rules, center of real power. Interesting. You guys are funny. Yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on. 4:40 a.m. Is that London? It's gotta be. The idea of like time and different sort of time zones is always like fun to play with too. Something to kind of think about. Yeah. Yes, it's London. Time zones stress me out. I agree. Like the fact that like Australia right now is like it's already like Tuesday and like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that, or like 10. It's interesting to me, and probably to you guys as well. Yeah. All right, guys, give me stuff to talk about. I like questions. Greetings from Norway. You're super far away. Hi. Okay, what are your thoughts on a separate civilization in the center of the earth? So you must have listened to my podcast. If not, that's a huge, synchronistic question. Appreciate that. I must be fun at parties. I am fun at parties. Okay, I asked for questions and then I got a lot of questions. Okay, so I actually have talked about that quite a bit. Like, what could aliens be, right? So I've talked about aliens on a microscopic level, right? I've talked about could fungi, and I never finished that thought. I apologize if you were like waiting for me to finish that thought. I didn't finish it. But I kind of asked myself, like, if they're aliens, where would they sort of be coming from, right? So you could think, okay, out of space. But I always kind of ask myself, like, just because we see them in the sky, is it fair to assume that because they're in the sky, then they must be from another planet? Like, why are we making that jump, like that leap, that connection, right? Because when you see a plane or a helicopter in the sky, you don't think the plane is from another planet, right? You just go, oh, they're flying in from somewhere else. But for some reason, when we see, like, or when people have reported seeing UFOs, we all collectively go, oh, they're from another planet. I play with the idea that even though we are told, this is my tinfoil hat going on, but even though we are told that, okay, it's just, the 7 continents and that's it, I play with the idea that we are sort of like isolated, and there's, what if there are other, wait, somebody just asked if they're talking to a demon. Wait, what? My bed faces my giant mirror, and sometimes I maladaptive daydream in the mirror. Oh, I have to see the rest of the question. But I kind of wonder if there are more advanced sort of civilizations on this planet right now that we just haven't been told of. You know what I mean? Like, we're not being told everything. I mean, let's just, at this point, squirrel. At this point, we should know that we're not being told everything. Like, you just accept that everything that this world is, we don't know. You're not going to be taught that at school. You're not being, taught that in college, right? And anybody that sort of challenges the status quo and starts asking these sort of questions or having these sort of conversations, kind of gets like shunted, right? Or told like, okay, no, that's wild. You don't think about that. That's not true. Like, it's just, this is what it really is. So anybody who's like kind of starts to kind of think about reality as different from what we're told is sort of ostracized, right? Or made to feel like they're crazy, or they just keep these ideas to themselves. But we haven't explored everything, like somebody just said. Yeah, and so what if we're just told that, okay, it's just 7 continents and that's it? But what if it's not? How do you know, right? How do you know? Well, you know because you were told this, but you've never actually tried to, kind of explore beyond what you have been told. So, but you stand on that foundation of knowledge is, no, I just know this, I know it, but how do you know? How do you know? So in a couple of videos I've talked about how, like, if we, right, as our society, we are capable of creating deep underground military bases, right? So dumps, right? Deep underground military bases. So it is possible to live underground. Absolutely possible to live underground. The facilities exist right now where if we needed to, if something happened on the surface of Earth, we could live underground, right? So how is it so far-fetched to think that there aren't other societies that we aren't privy to living? Somebody just mentioned the hollow Earth, and that's exactly kind of what I'm talking about. Maybe not to say that the Earth is hollow, I don't know, but to say that how do we know there aren't whole civilizations, whole countries like within the Earth? Because we talk about we live on Earth, right? But when you live in your house, right, you don't say I live on my house, you say you live in your house, but yet we say we live on Earth. And yet what I guess what I'm saying is getting yourself to the point where you literally start just questioning everything. I'm not saying you're going to have the answers, because you're not, right? Unless you're about to take the time and go exploring, you're not going to have the answers. But getting into the exercise of asking these sort of questions start to open certain things in your mind and in your brain. On one end, yes, you're left with questions that you may not be able to answer, but on the other end, it does change the way you think, right? And it does allow you to become more creative, because then you start challenging like preconceived conceptions of reality, of just the way to do things, right? Like, why do I have to do things this way? Well, because everybody else does it. Okay, why do I have to think this? Well, because everybody else thinks this. Well, stop thinking what everybody else thinks and do what you want, right? That is the job, that is a challenge of artists, right? If you call yourself a creator, you call yourself an artist. I have watched Game of Thrones. If you call yourself a creator, an artist, your job is to challenge the status quo, right? Is to think outside the box, right? So I can give you all of these things that will kind of make you go, okay, maybe I shouldn't just accept the narrative of this is all that there is, right? They're saying that, these things that we see, right, they may be coming from another planet. And my perception of that is, just because we see them in the sky doesn't automatically mean they're coming from another planet. They could be coming from other civilizations on Earth right now that we're just not privy to, period, right? Period. Somebody just said you deny things without evidence, right? We also accept things without a lot of evidence too, right? So keeping an open mind to the sense of just going like, I'm not going to disbelieve that. I'm not going to automatically believe it either, but I am going to ask, what if? And that's my favorite question I love asking is, well, what if? It doesn't hurt to ask questions, right? It does help your brain become much more sort of pliable, much more flexible. And that's how you become a better sort of creator. And not just an artist and not just a writer, but even an entrepreneur, even a small business owner, right? Or, a big business owner, I don't know. But if you're looking to change the world in some way, you need to start getting yourself into a habit of challenging the status quo and challenging your preconceived notions and perceptions of, reality, right? Perception. Glad you're on. Oh, thank you. I definitely believe there's aliens in the ocean. You don't know, right? You don't know. I think we live in a computer simulation. I can see that. So some people just plain make evidence. You have the Bernstein Bears collection cards still. That's Stein or Stain? Has it changed to Stain? You need help and humble pie, then you wouldn't be so lost. Okay, thank you. Is this live? It is live. Yellow. So that's kind of my perception. That's how I sort of like to, I guess, think of things, because it is a different way to sort of think, right? You start on the premise of every time people have kind of said, this is how things are. In 50 to 100 years, what people thought, okay, this is how things are, ends up being sort of like an old way of thinking, and then people think different things later on, You get it? So I kind of just want you guys to understand that just because we accept things as commonplace like right now doesn't mean it'll always be the case like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So project yourself into a future, right? Mentally project yourself into a future where the things that we accept as commonplace is no longer commonplace, and then something drastic or something completely different is now sort of accepted, because that keeps happening. That's what the past is. Like, you can look through different moments in history and see how people believed one thing, and a bunch of people believed one thing, and then there were a couple of like really creative minded people who came out and said, well, why do we believe this? Yeah. And then when they came out and said, why do we believe this? I think it might be something different. Of course they were, insulted and ridiculed, and, some even killed, unfortunately. But then like 100 years later, like that one person who was the avant-garde, who challenged the status quo, ended up being right. And now the collective believed this like new thing, right? Like there was a time, like let's go like germs, right? Let's see what's going on. So rude for no reason. You can remove yourself. Oh, is somebody being rude? Don't worry about it, guys. It's okay. Right. So different things, right? Different things are accepted as status quo at one particular point in time. So it's people who, like a lot of people who comment and say, I think these things all the time, but I'm afraid, to say them out loud. I salute you. You know what I mean? Because you guys, the ones who go, I think these things all the time, and I know it's different. I know it challenges, the status quo, and I know it goes against what everybody else thinks. You get it? But you guys are the ones that are supposed to kind of pull the rest of us, pull humanity to a different perspective, to a different way of thinking. And if you're doing that with, something as like simple as writing or painting or creating, or something as great as just changing your perception of reality and talking to people about how you think, I don't know, but that's my perspective. Let's talk about what you know. Evangelicals remind me of Hills Have Eyes family, as you found an exit, they're demons. Did you study art formally? I am self-taught. And what I do is I study classical art, like literally, like I will meditate, I will stare at like old classical paintings all day and just kind of look at what they do, and then I study faces. So I like looking at people, but I also look at like photos of people, and I study like expressions and things like that, and I combine them and use them to create my paintings. And what I enjoy about my paintings is that they allow me to express what I've been basically saying over the last 5 minutes or so, is okay, what if, right? Like what would paintings from a particular type of world, right, a parallel universe, look like? And then I do this series, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm kind of trying to encourage you guys to do, I guess. Interview with a vampire, that's interesting. Do you get into lucid dreaming and deep meditative states? So I've tried to lucid dream, and I am not yet successful at it. And I hate to admit it, but it's true that like, and I write my dreams for the most part, like 3 or 4 times a week. I will sit and I'll write my dreams out. And throughout the day, like I've tried all the exercises. I've read like 3 or 4 books on lucid dreamings and the exercises, and you know what I mean? Like reminding yourself throughout the day. Thank you. But like, I can't yet do it. I've only had one lucid dream my whole life, and it's still as vivid as the day that it happened. And I just can't get to that point where like I'm doing it all the time. I am living a lucid life though. So I guess that's what I kind of tell myself, like it balances it out. And sometimes I just say, well, maybe it's not, I'm not meant to have lucid dreams, because there are things that I do see in my dreams when I'm not in control of them, which is like all my dreams pretty much, except for that one lucid dream I had. But there's things that I see in my dreams that either inspire something in me or give me ideas, or some of them tend to be prophetic as well. So I'll have dreams that kind of warn me of things. So I feel like it's like kind of a give and take. So on one end, like, yeah, I'm not able to control the dreams, but there's a lot of revelations that I get during my dreams that maybe I don't want to trade. you know, by being so in control. But then on the opposite end, like somebody had commented about lucid dreaming, and I'm just curious, like, did you talk to these people? Are you talking to people in your dreams, right? And are you able to like glean information from them? And who are these people? Because if I can lucid dream like regularly, or kind of trade it out between lucid dreaming and non-lucid dreaming, and I can like interact with people either from different times or from parallel universes, like imagine what I could learn from that, you know what I mean? So that's like my drive, but it just hasn't happened for me yet. For better or worse. Most of my lucid dreams happen by accident, like trying harder is less effective. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just like trying too hard. You know, I think maybe I'll get to the place where, hey, New York, sleep paralysis. So I have had, from the age of 10 till about 5-6 years ago, I had a combination of night terrors and sleep paralysis. Fun. That's a fun combination. And I'm saying fun with extreme sarcasm. It is horrible. It's a horrible and terrible experience. And I've always been prone to like, you know, vivid dreams or whatever, but to have like vivid nightmares, like if I told you some of my dreams, you guys would be like, what the fuck? And it's not like I didn't at the time anyway, I still don't. It's not like I watched like negative things, you know what I mean? Or watched anything scary. I didn't. Like I try to keep what I choose for entertainment, I try to keep it for the most part, you know, light and you know, sort of fun. I don't watch things that, like, a couple of people had recommended that I watch the show Dark, for example, on Netflix, and I watched like the first few, like maybe 15-20 minutes of it, and it didn't sit right with me in my heart area, so I was like, nah, it's not for me. But my dreams would like put like, you know, scary movies to shame. They're terrifying. But I want to make sure I'm not. It's a Mandela effect reference. Yeah, Bernstein Bears. So, but I would have these nightmares, and then I would wake up before my body would wake up. And what would wake me up is like the fear from the dream. I would literally wake up like screaming. That would be how I would wake myself up. And it was absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I'm not trans. Beautiful people, but I'm not. I'm cis. Is it called cis? Yeah. But thanks for asking. But I would wake up with these like terrible, terrible dreams, like just like screaming. And what I realized over time, it was a couple of things. It was the position that I was sleeping in. It was like if the room is hot, if I was sleeping on my back and the room was hot, I would always have like the combination of the night terrors and the sleep paralysis. But I had a lot of fear in my waking life. I had a lot of fear in my waking life. And I also had false awakening dreams as well, like where I wake up thinking I'm awake, and then like something happens and I wake up again. So I've had that as well. But I had a lot of fear in my waking life, and it was, I mean, if we're being completely candid, the fear stemmed from some deeply religious beliefs that I held as a child and into my adult life. And once I let go of that, a lot of the stuff that was like seeping into my dreams and causing the nightmares faded away. But like, I respected, you know, other people are on their journey and religion works for them, but that was what stopped my sleep paralysis. And as far as like my theories behind what caused them, the false awakening dreams really make me feel out of control and dread. Yeah, there's a lot of fear. That's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of fear in awakened life. So you have to watch your fear. So even with going live, like every time I go live or I'm about to go live, I hear that voice, and I've addressed the voice in your head a few times in my videos as well. It's okay, guys. Don't worry about it. But you know, you hear that voice in your head, and it's you know, it's that fear. And I've addressed that voice in your head. I've talked about it in lives. I've talked about it in my podcast. I've theorized as to what it could be. But the thing is, when you feel the fear, do you allow it to kind of control you? Do you allow it to manipulate you? Or do you feel the fear and do what you're going to do anyway? So like if I'm about to go live, the voice pops in and it's going to be X, Y, and Z. It's going to happen, whatever. I can't live like that. I can't live a fear-based life. So I face my fear and I go, okay, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I do the live anyway. And here I am, you know, and I talk to you guys, and I make myself face that, you know, all the suggestions of that voice in your head that causes anxiety and depression and stuff like that. I make myself face that. And then when I face it, right, and all the things that it said that was going to happen don't happen, or if they do happen, I'm like, okay, I'm not dead, like I'm still alive, like whatever, you know, then it makes me less inclined to listen to that voice, until eventually you realize that everything that voice in your head says is just a lie and it's bullshit. And now it's just sort of like talking to the wind. And that's how you become more powerful and more confident and more, you know, yeah, like less, you know, less fearful. So I deal with that all the time. And the part of how I got there, part of how I got to where I am now, I mean, it's been about a 5-6 year journey, but the nightmares have stopped. The sleep paralysis have stopped. The night terrors have stopped. And even sometimes when I do have like the nightmares, I don't feel the fear energy resonating here anymore. I just recognize, oh, okay, this is a bad dream, and actually use that to just go, okay, wake up. And then typically when I wake up, it's like, okay, it's hot or something like that, or I'm in a weird position or something like that. So that's how I deal with that. Now, if you want to ask me, like, if you're asking me, like, do I have a weird theory? If that's what you're asking me, like, do I have a weird theory as to what else might be going on? If you want me to go there, I can get weird and go there. But I also want to, like, respond to you guys' comments as well. However, people were playing with boards in the house. I would see the dark figure. I used to have them a lot. Somebody also asked me if I have prophetic dreams. I do, but I think everybody does, actually. Truly, how this world, breath of fresh air. Thank you. That's very kind. How do you sleep? Oh, question went away. If I missed your question, feel free to ask it again. Somebody said go there. Okay, all right. I'm gonna go there. So let's get weird. I love that. That needs to be a shirt. Like, I want that. I want this on a shirt. I want this emoji. This is my favorite emoji. I said that earlier. But I need this as a shirt, and I need let's get weird to be a shirt. Literally a dream that happened just like the dream. So I do think that everybody has prophetic dreams. Everybody. Write them down. Like, get into the habit. And I know it's hard. Sometimes you just want to get up and, like, you know, do what you need to do. And you don't have to write it every single day. You know what I mean? You don't have to write out your dreams every single day. I would recommend that you do. But I'm telling you guys to do something that I don't do. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. I will write down my dreams, especially if I wake up and I'm like, oh, that's really intense. I will write them down. I usually grab my phone and just write it in a notepad or whatever, about 3 to 4 times a week. If you go back and you read your dreams, you'll find that there's certain scenes that you dreamt of will play out in your waking life. It's really weird. It's really weird, and I believe that this happens. Yeah, somebody said they put it in notes, so do that. Somebody said a medical doctor told me they heard about this, but don't know too much about it. I heard about what? I'm sharing my video. Thank you. But yeah, start writing your dreams down. You'll find, like, this happens to me a lot. Like, I'll write a dream out, and then, like, the next day, like, I'll, like, run into something, or like I'll have a dream of like some, like, random, like a blonde woman or whatever. And, like, the next day, like, the first thing that happens when I pick up my phone is like one of my friends who happens to be blonde or whatever just texted me. Like, I haven't talked to them in years. Like, it's like little scenes like that. And I think that this applies to everybody. And everybody keeps sending me gifts. Like, thank you. That's very kind of you. Appreciate it. So, yeah, I think there's a documentary on Amazon Prime. Admittedly, I haven't finished it, and the reason why I didn't finish it is not because I didn't think it was profound. Oh, thank you. It's not because I didn't think the documentary was profound. It's because I felt like a lot of the information they were talking about I already kind of knew, and I need to go back and finish it. But it's called Supernatural. I recommend you guys check it out if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And basically what they're saying is there are a lot of profound sort of abilities that human beings have, but we've been convinced, we've been convinced that we're not capable of. So I firmly believe that nothing is impossible. Improbable, or less probable than others, but certainly not impossible. Impossible is only a matter of time. But ESP, telekinesis, you know, like precognitive dreams, all of that, like, that is a natural. Thank you, guys. That is something that human beings can do. But for some reason, we have been kind of programmed, or we just believe that we are incapable of a particular sort of thing, right? But we exercise certain superhuman, super normal abilities on a daily basis if you start paying attention. Like a big one. This happened to me this weekend. I was just listening to a book. I think it's called An End to Upside Down Thinking. Great read if you guys haven't checked that out yet. But I was just reading that, and I was in a chapter, no joke, I'm not making this up, and I'm not trying to ignore you guys, I get easily distracted, so I'm trying to like finish my story, and I've just realized I've left like several stories unfinished. So if I get off track and you want me to talk about it, please just comment. But I'm not making this up. I was sitting right there, I was painting, and I was on the chapter where the author is discussing precognition, particularly in terms of like phone calls, like expecting a phone call. Okay, so the author he's saying most people actually possess this level of precognition, right? Where you think about a person, you think about them, and then they call. You think about them, and then they call. And I'm listening to that, and I'm thinking, this is bullshit. Like that's just so fluke. And then in my mind, I think about my friend Dania. I haven't talked to her in like 5 months, 6 months, and I'm thinking about her. And as she popped into my head, she calls me. So I'm listening to the chapter. It's almost like the universe is like, ha, you're dumb. Like, I'm trying to tell you something and you're not listening. So I'm listening to the chapter saying that most people, if not all, possess this ability where like you could think about somebody, they're thinking about you, and then they'll call you. And so the author is calling this to my attention, or to the reader's attention. And as I'm thinking about it, like my friend's name pops into my head, and I like dismiss that, and then she calls. Not making this up, this legit happened. Something's just so small, but it stuck with me. And like as she's talking to me, I was like, I want to hear everything you have to say, but this is weird. Like this just happened, and I don't like this is really wild. So I do believe that, and a couple people are agreeing as well. They're saying it's true. But yeah, that happens a lot. And I actually kind of want to encourage you guys to start taking note of that, because sometimes when things like that happen, it's almost like, I hate to say it because I know how it sounds, but I'm going to say anyway, it's like, I believe the universe itself, as wild as it sounds, has its own intelligence, its own consciousness, if you will. And sometimes it's trying to communicate with you to let you know that you are capable of this, for better or worse, and this is something that happens. And it, like, how many times this happened to me yesterday. I was driving, and like I looked, like, how like you're driving, you look, right? You look to the side and somebody's like next to you driving, and then they look you dead in your soul, like as you're, it's like, you can feel when people are staring at you, right? Like you could sense, people can feel that. Like you just be sitting there and just, you can feel that. That's another thing, right? How does that happen? How do you know? How can you feel that? So there's a lot that's happening there that we're not, that we don't address, or we just dismiss. But I think we dismiss these things to our own detriment, because, it is something that we're capable of. So imagine if we lived in a society or on a timeline where that is encouraged. Like imagine instead of when you're going to school to learn, ABCs or whatever, that's sweet. Thank you. Love you too. But imagine if you lived in a timeline. So I like to think in terms of like parallel universes and what other worlds are doing, not just us, because it's not just us. But I like to think in terms of what other realities are doing. What if in other realities they condition human beings, that this is what you're capable of? They would be, their society would be much different from ours. Like just, right? Imagine little kids who knew that, telekinesis is something that's possible, and then they get trained in that, or ESP is possible, and then they get trained in that. And it sounds wild to like the general public if you say that these are things that people are, capable of doing. But the research is out there. There are books on this. There's articles on this, and even mainstream media. So the things I talk about seem wild on face value, but they are not. They're absolutely not. There are schools like that in real life. I'm trying to go. Somebody said I give up robotic vibes. Thank you. I think it's wild that it sounds wild to them. I agree with you. I think so too. I think in this day and age where literally anything is Googleable, if you hear these things, then just go on Google, pull out your phone and just type it in, like ESP, or, you know, like a couple of times people will comment like, oh, I had this thought, right? And then TikTok showed me this video, and I'll comment like, TikTok is reading your thoughts. Like I'm not that like strong with it, but I will comment and I will say, I think that the algorithm is reading your thoughts. So I'll say that. And then people just go like, okay, that's weird. But I'm not just saying that just to say that. It sounds crazy, right? On face value, but like pick up your phone and look up like brain computing interface. This is real. So like if you don't believe what I'm saying, that's okay. Like pick up your phone and Google it. You know what I mean? Like, is this possible? It's not like we don't have like a whole ass like search engine in the palm of our hands that we can kind of figure these things out on our own, especially when I a lot of the time put the books that I'm getting this information from right there in the comments. Somebody's saying that there's a documentary on the gut, talks about schools that focus on telekinesis. Yeah, I'm trying to go. You guys, even earlier I was talking about, how like I put on the tinfoil-hat. So like the other day I was like doing the laundry and I was like standing in like a sunbeam and I saw like, you guys ever just kind of note how like, you guys ever note just how like dust particles sort of like dance in the air kind of thing? So I was thinking about telekinesis, okay? And then I thought like, I wonder if I can make a dust particle like move in the direction that I wanted to go. And I was like trying to move it, you know, because like every time you watch a show or a movie or anything like that and it's about like telekinesis, right? People are always using their hands. And I'm like, where did they get this idea from? Like the concept that you can move things with your hands. So it's like, I feel like if I do have the ability, thank you. If I do have the ability, I'm going to move like a dust particle, you know, I couldn't do it. But yeah, I'm trying to go to the telekinesis school. Yeah, so I said this earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. So this is a Berenstain Bears t-shirt. It was hard for me to find this shirt, and when I found it, I changed the A to an EI, which is funny though. You know what's funny? Yeah, I was trying to Tai Chi that dust particle. But you know it's funny, as I was drawing over the AI and turning the A to an E, I was like, wait, AI? That's weird, right? Because a couple of people have also said like, okay, so COVID-19, like I've read this theory where it's like COVID-19 and the A starts with like 19 is like A-I, and then you have Berenstain and it's like AI, and I was just like, huh, that's weird. Just something random. I'm not gonna like dive too deeply into that, but if you guys know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. Would you be opposed to a chip from Elon Musk? Fuck yeah. No, I don't want a chip from Elon Musk. It's funny because I actually did a video on that. Somebody mentioned immortality earlier, or the gut, our second brain. So somebody in the comments just said, check out the documentary. It's called The Gut, Our Second Brain. So you guys check it out. I will check that out as well. I will not be getting a brain chip. Just came here. If I be in the alien videos, what's up? You have a sense of where your soul is from. Well, I like to think of each of our souls or our consciousness as like bodies of water, right? And then you have the collective consciousness as like the ocean. Yeah, so the ocean, right? The oceans is where like the water comes from, and then it settles, right, in rain and, you know, rivers and lakes or even a cup of water. So you have like different levels of, you know, I guess, water, or different types of water. And so that's kind of how I perceive consciousness as well. So if you say, where's my soul from? I would say the collective, right? And then we are sort of individuated in each body, right? So I'm in this body, my consciousness is in this body, the way, like, you know, a body of water is like in a lake or something like that. But eventually we all kind of go back to the collective, right? The hive mind or the hive consciousness, if that makes sense. Have you done psychedelics? I have. I have done psychedelics. Right now, I don't know if I'm able to. We are the Borg. I was waiting for somebody to comment on the collective. That was dope. Yeah, we are the Borg in a way. We are the Borg in a way. Do I believe in collective knowledge? Yes. So in a video I just posted, I talked about the Akashic records. Absolutely. And it would make sense. I mean, we have the collective. Our collective knowledge is like our search engine, right? DuckDuckGoose, or is it DuckDuckGoose? DuckDuckGo. They need a better name for that search engine. I hate it. I hate the name. I like recommending it to people, but it doesn't like flow well, you know? Resistance is futile, but it doesn't flow well. But yeah, DuckDuckGo, Google, these are all search engines that allow you to, you know, tap into the collective knowledge, or at least a great part of the collective knowledge of the human race. Yeah, DDG. Yeah, I kind of like that. DDG. It doesn't flow like. But yeah, it allows you to tap into the collective knowledge of like our reality. So if we have our DDG, I'll just say, if we have our DDG, then other parallel universes have their DDG, and it's all up there, right, in the cloud or whatever it is. Then there also has to be a collective of all of these, like all the DDGs and Googles of all of the parallel universes that are kind of up there. Is there a collective? And that would be what the Akashic record is. And I think, and I've theorized, that is what artists and creators are like able to kind of tap into and kind of pull knowledge from, and are doing it all the time, and aren't even like aware that they're doing it. So absolutely, I absolutely agree with that. Which is better, lucid dreaming or remote viewing? I kind of like lucid dreaming, like the concept of it. Like I said earlier, I've only lucid dreamed one, and not for lack of trying. But the reason why I like lucid dreaming as opposed to astral projection is because I want to stay like I'm still in my body. Like the idea of like leaving my body open, it's like leaving like your car door unlocked. I don't even know if this is something that's possible, but I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. I just don't want some entity just like, you know, I'm like, oh, let's go to this new world. And then somebody's like, gotcha. And now like they have my body. So I'd rather, if I had to choose, I like the idea of still being tethered in a way through like lucid dreaming, as opposed to just straight up like leaving the body sort of, you know, unprotected. So that's my thing. But to go back to psychedelics, I don't know what we are able to talk about. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know if I can like just like, you know, talk about this or not. But I do believe that microdosing psychedelics is extremely profound, because what it does is there's a part of your brain that it particularly mushrooms, right? That it goes in and it suppresses, right? And by suppressing that, it allows your consciousness to come through. I call that part of your brain like basically like it's your ego, right? And a lot of the time what causes people to suffer is the ego. It's the voice in your head, right? And what the fungi, the magic fungi, I'm trying to not say anything that's, you know, offensive or whatever, but what it does is, or illegal, I'm not suggesting that you guys do it. But what it does is it suppresses a part of your brain that is problematic, for lack of a better word, and it allows who you really are, your consciousness, to come through. So there are documentaries that have been done on psilocybin and things of that nature, psychedelics. ESPN did one that was pretty good. CNN did one as well. So yeah. Why did we develop the ego if it's so bad for us? I love how you guys are like shrooms. I don't know what I could say and not say, but yeah, I feel like, yeah, you guys are more than welcome to, you know, say what you want to say on there. I think I would be respectful. I wasn't sure about trying it. Thanks for that. I'm not recommending that you guys try it. I'm not a medical professional, but for me personally, I recommend it. I would personally recommend it for myself, so you guys read between the lines. I can speak about my experience, and in my experience, almost like, where's my hat? Hold on. I know I have a mushroom hat somewhere, so I can just point to it. That doesn't matter. But in my experience, in my past, I was a very egoic individual, right? Like just driven, like reactive, extremely reactive. Just, you know, a lot of anger, a lot of pride, a lot of like fear, a lot of anxiety, right? And just the constant, incessant voice that would drive me and would put me in situations that would be emotionally draining, energetically, more specifically, energetically draining, you know? And that caused the constant expulsion of negative energy, because it's energy. So that constantly exploding in that way, like anger or, you know, reactivity, that's all energy. I found that in time, it became detrimental to this body, right? It just was degrading the body. It was affecting my vision. It was affecting my nerves and things of that nature. And it is absolutely exhausting. I agree. It is exhausting. And the chaos that came with that, and the pain and unnecessary suffering that came with that, living in that way. You know what I mean? Like, thank you. It broke my body down. It did. Like I said, I think I've talked about this in previous lives, but it affected my sight. I started losing my vision. Like that is energy, guys. That's legit energy. When I keep using the E word, because that it has to sink in. When you react in anger like that, right? When you're like, whoa, right? Somebody says something to you and you're just like, ooh, or, you know, somebody leaves a comment and you go in and you're just like, fuck your life. I mean, feel that shit in your chest area right there when the next time somebody says something crazy to you and you're just like, and you're just going off. It's not like just, okay, I'm just texting. When you're texting, you're feeling the rage, you're feeling the anger. That is doing something to your body. Somebody just asked if spells are real. Ask me again, because I want to finish this thought. But that is doing something to your body. And if you continue to do that, exploding in that way, right? You're gonna break your body down. You're gonna wear the body down. And that's how people get sick, right? More and more now, scientists, doctors are starting to realize that there is a correlation between your emotional behavior and your physical health, particularly cancer. If you're constantly living in a negative state, like in a state of stress, eventually they're starting to realize that high stress, these are facts, that high stress environment, living in a constant state of high stress and reactivity and negativity, they're starting to correlate it to cancer, which I actually had in the past. You get it? So it is true in my experience. And like I said before, DDG it, DuckDuckGo it, Google it, whatever it is, and read about it. Okay? So if you keep sort of doing that, it will wear the body down, right? It will break the body down. That negative energy is destructive. Then, okay, I'm gonna say it again. Thank you. The negative energy is destructive. Negative energy is destructive. And the first thing it destroys is not the person that you're putting the energy out at, it's you. Because it has to come out of the body first, right? To hit the other person that you're trying to like rage at. So it's gonna go through you first, and eventually it will break the body down. Aging, sickness, disease, constantly being sick or whatever. So what has worked for me is, thank you. And somebody just said my voice is calming. That's from, you know, the special fungi that I will not say by name, I guess. I don't know what the rules are. But that's from that. And it has allowed my consciousness to sort of become more aware, and allowed me to become less reactive and just more like protective of my energy, with the understanding that I know that if I can't hurt people. Like, I don't care if you say something to me. Somebody mentioned stoicism. I love stoicism, okay? To a point, but I do love it. Thank you, I just changed my hair today. But if you say something to me, right, I need to create the space before I react to it. And that space is, if I choose to react to this in a negative way, right, that's energy, and I put that negative energy out there, for the energy to come out, it's going to hurt me first. It's going to hurt you first. It's not going to hurt them first. It's going to hurt you first. All right? It's going to hurt you first. Your mom's like, why are you so calm? Because I'm breathing. I like that. But it's gonna hurt you first. So keeping that in mind, and it's not even a space of fear or anything else like that. It's just self-preservation. Like, I don't want to say the other person isn't worth, the degradation of yourself. You know what I mean? Because then that's like a devaluing the other person. You know what I mean? But it's to say more so that I can't harm you without hurting myself. If I hit you, I'm gonna hurt myself, right? And I don't want to hurt myself. I love myself. So I'd rather, you say what you need to say. I decide whether or not that's offensive to me, right? And if I just go, well, I'm not, that's their ego. It is what it is. I can keep my energy, balance, right? I can keep my calm. I'm not saying that I'm like calm like this all the time, but for the most part, I am. And a lot of it has to do with the practice of microdosing. I have changed profoundly in the last few years, me doing that. And I do, like, sometimes I'll do 5 days on, 2 days off. Sometimes I'll do like a couple of weeks where I just don't do it at all, and I just more meditate. And even the meditation has helped me as well, because it once again creates that space, so you're not reacting. You need that space. So yeah, it is good. Somebody just said microdosing is good for the soul, and I agree. I don't have any experience with acid, so I can't really speak on that. Why do we have belly buttons, and should we fill them in with something? I have an outie, so there's nothing for me to. And should we fill them in with something? I have an outie, so there's nothing for me to fill in. How does shrooms affect you? Does it make you focus on tasks? Okay. Now, my pain is enough from a vampire movie, but it's funny people keep saying that. So how mushrooms affect me? Okay, sorry. You're right. I did forget the spells comment. I'm going to try to remember how mushrooms affect me, and I'm going to speak on the spells comment. So earlier in the beginning of this live, I talked about how I love sci-fi. I do. But I also love like shows about magic. And I do believe that magic is real. Like, if you take our present society, and I apologize for repeating myself for those who've been, in the live this whole time, but if you take our society and you present it to somebody in the past, right? And you show them what we're capable of, right? Our mechanical chariots, right? Our cars, right? Being able to fly even, or our cell phones, or black mirrors that allow us to communicate with people, thousands of miles away. To somebody in the 1700s or in a parallel universe that has not developed this kind of technology, it looks like what we're doing looks like magic. What we're doing looks like magic. But also, so just take that and table that. But we also have things like the placebo effect and the nocebo effect, right? So the placebo effect, I've done a video on this, right? So you have the placebo effect. If I give you a pill and I tell you that this pill can heal you, if you believe that it can heal you, it will heal you. How is that not magic in a way? It's how are you looking at it? Spelled like, right? How are you looking at it? The same thing with a nocebo effect, right? If I give you a sugar pill and I tell you, hey, this sugar pill, even though you don't know that it's a sugar pill, but it's just a sugar pill, it's inert, right? It's nothing. And I say, but this pill can harm you, right? If you believe it can harm you, it will harm you, right? How is that different from magic. It's just a way of looking at it. And the placebo effect and the nocebo effect, these are things that you can Google right now. They happen every day. In fact, clinical trials are set against the placebo effect, and a lot of scientists and doctors, they really don't know what to do with that information. But anytime you see like a medication, medical ad where they say, against placebo, what they basically mean is against a person's belief that something inert can heal their body, or basically the person's belief in their own, self, or ability to heal themselves. So you take all of those things and you kind of tie it together. And if you remove yourself from our present understanding of what magic is and just sort of look at what is happening from a very objective point of view, or like, let's say like it is as an anthropologist 100 years from now, this could be in a way considered magic. So being mindful of what people say to you, right? Because if I say something to you negative and you believe it, that could be a kind of curse, right? That could be spell casting in a way. It all depends on perspective, right? You tell somebody who is absolutely beautiful, like you have a child, right, who's raised by a verbally abusive mother, and the mother keeps telling this child, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly, yeah? If the child believes it, right, like they will accept that, and that's how they will, sort of perceive that. That's a curse. So you have to really be mindful of what you say to other people, but also what you allow people to say to you, and more importantly, what you accept from other people. What you accept from other people, because you have to accept it first for it to have, power over you. And somebody said, right, the newscasting, broadcasting, channeling, even the word glamour. Glamour has its origins in magic, right? Google it. So I do believe that there's stuff happening here in our reality that at surface level people miss it. But if you think deeply about it, there is, even in the West, there is magic happening. It's happening all the time. You turn on the news and they're saying things to you and you accept it, and then it starts sort of affecting your life, right? Because you believe it. So that's, that's that. Before I have to go, beyond excited to have found you. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. You guys are so kind. Thank you. Thank you, Smart. Thank you. That's very kind. Now, how do mushrooms affect you? Okay. Thank you for the reminder. So my approach to taking mushrooms is, and how many people went to tinfoil-hat? Okay, so my approach to taking mushrooms is that there are people who take like heroic doses, and that doesn't work for me. There was a book I read by this guy who for like 25 years was like really, he was a scientist, and he decided he was going to like utilize psychedelics, but on himself. So he made himself like a test subject, and then he would catalog his experience. And so he went like 20-25 years. I don't remember the name of the book right now, unfortunately, but he went 20-25 years taking like heroic doses of, was it Andrew Hoffman? That sounds familiar. But he took heroic doses of psychedelics, specifically mushrooms. And after doing that for 25 years, he came to the conclusion that he didn't need to take those like that heavy, like those high doses, because it also had like negative effects on his body. Like he was like he would make him throw up, he would get sick, that kind of thing. So after I read that book, I can't remember the title, but after I read that book, I was like, I'm just gonna like learn from him and his 25 years, right? Like I'm not gonna be like, yeah, let me take like super heroic doses, because I don't want to deal with the negative effects. So that's why I microdose. I did when my very first experience with it, I did take like a half of like what is considered like a regular dose, and I don't remember what the weight is, but I just took half of that, and for like hours, like it was like intense. And while I'm grateful for that experience, I don't think I would do that again, because for like a whole week, like because I was so high, like I was high, like it felt too good. Like I was like, it was like intense for like 6-7 hours. It was just like intensely like, wow. But then for like the rest, like for a week later, like the whole week I was like down. So I think it was like too much. So I don't personally like that method. So what I do is I'll either take just a microdose every day, and literally what I mean by microdose is like literally like half of one mushroom, like half a mushroom. So that reintegration was rough for me. Yeah, I guess that's what it's called, reintegration. Yeah, and that peak, I didn't like it. Like it was great while I was in it, but even in the back of my mind, I was like, this is not how life works, right? If you go up, you're gonna have to come back down. Like I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to crypto, but yeah, if you go up, it's gonna have to come back down. You can't just stay up, you know? And I went through that, and so for a week, I was sort of, I didn't like that. I dealt with I was like in a depressive state, and I worked through it. So now, like when I do microdose, it's literally like a tiny amount, like half a cap and like half of a stem, and that's it. And then some days I will take like a 3 caps and stems throughout the day though. So like I'll take a cap, like half a cap and a stem, like in the morning, and a couple hours later I'll take half a cap and a stem, and a couple hours later. But what I'm doing, right? What I'm intentionally doing. Somebody just said too much depletes the dopamine levels. I believe so too. But what I'm doing this intentionally because there is a part of my brain that I am actively trying to change, right? There's a part of my brain that I'm actively trying to change. What I read from Entangled Life by Sheldrake, I forget what his first name is, but the last name is Sheldrake, is that the way psychedelics work, particularly mushrooms, is they suppress a part of your brain that is incapable of focusing. And that's what I'm trying to change. That's what I'm trying to intentionally, I'm changing my brain. Like I'm intentionally trying to change and shape my brain. So that's why I'm taking these doses. And I'm trying to allow more of my consciousness to come forward, to come through. Who I really am to come through. To put things very simply, like I am trying and I am attempting to destroy the ego. Like if you get to a point where like there's nothing, you know what I mean? There's nothing to get offended. There's nothing to harm or whatever it is. It's just, it is what it is. That's what I'm working towards. So I'm consciously trying to reshape my brain. All right, consciously trying to reshape my brain. And there are some people who feel that they can accomplish that by taking like so-called heroic doses where they just they want to see, they want to see aliens and talk to God and things of that nature. And that's good for them. But to me, that's not necessary for me. That's just not my path. That might work for other people, but that's just not my path. For me, I'm trying to change my brain in a way that my consciousness can come through, and that eventually there's just no ego. I can't speak on what my husband does because that's his life, and it is what it is. But I will say that I'm not alone in my journey. And for me, somebody just said DMT gets you there quick, and I've read of that as well. That's just, how do you do that safely if you misstep? That's why you microdose. That's how you do it safely. As far as DMT, I've not had any experience with DMT. I do know that the brain naturally produces DMT, and I have a theory that DMT is actually a chemical that your consciousness can use to jump realities. So there's a book, I think it's called DMT, the Spirit Molecule. It could be wrong, but I think that's what the book is called. And in it, this guy, if it's the right book I'm talking about, he injected people with ego death. He injected people with DMT, and they all reported basically encountering the same species, I think they were like DMT elves or whatever. And they were all recounting the same thing. They were all recounting the exact same entities, right? They were all encountering the same entities. And I kind of wonder if when you sleep, if DMT is released and your consciousness really literally travels to parallel universes, and it's the same thing as when you astral project, and it's the same thing when people take DMT as well, right? If you're literally traveling, right? Because right now we're so stuck on travel, we're so stuck on the materialist perspective in terms of travel. If you want to travel to another planet, we got to build a rocket ship, and I love that little heart thing. It's just so cool. Thank you. But we're so stuck on physically traveling, right? But there's the people, every time I do like a live, somebody always mentions the CIA. That's a good point too. Somebody just said it's also released in huge amounts when you die. Think about that, right? Or I should say when your body dies, right? But there's also the CIA document that just got released that somebody always brings out. I haven't had the chance to sit and like read it deeply, but basically the CIA was experimenting with astral projection. So do with that information what you will. But I'm inclined to believe that there's more than one way to travel. I mean, you have people talk about, even in the live here, they talked about, what's it called? Remote viewing, right? Traveling to places without, like, non-physically, like your consciousness going and seeing things, right? Projecting your consciousness into like a different location in space. These things happen. Like, it's not, it is what it is. Like, but they do happen. They happen every day. Whether or not you believe it doesn't matter. They do happen. So yeah. My zodiac sign is Virgo. I'm gonna wear a shirt that says Virgo. I'm a Virgo. People who shift realities when sleeping. I feel like we constantly shift. It's just there's some people who do it consciously, and there's some people who do it unconsciously. Yeah, have you thought about people that we consider mentally ill actually living in more than one reality? So, I think the book is called Doors of Perception, but in it, it's like a rough quote because I read it a long time ago, but in it, it talked about how so many Virgos, but in the book, it talked about the doors, like how, so you have consciousness, right? So you have who you really are, yeah? And then you have the body, right? And the body has these senses, and each sense is like a window slit in which you can see. I love Westworld. You have a window slit in which you are perceiving reality, right? But your senses kind of force this great big thing. I got to do a video on this, but again, this great big thing that is your consciousness, and it's like confines your consciousness to see reality to just this specific sort of, like window of perception, yeah, just right here. It's limiting. So your body is extremely limiting. It's a mechanism, it's a machine that limits perception. That's what the body is. It literally filters. Now this is fact, like neurologically, there's a show called Brain Games that used to show you this, but it shows like your brain is constantly editing stuff, like you're seeing technically things upside down. And what else? There's also like, I think it's like a 0.3 second delay as well in like what you're perceiving. So your brain edits shit all the time. And if you do something to kind of change your brain, that also obviously, it's like that if you're like confined to like a box or prison, and then you damage the prison in a way, then you start to perceive other things that aren't visible to people who are, I guess, have normal brains. Have a great day at work. But who aren't, things that aren't visible to people who have like normal brains. And so I think people, I think people who we call them mentally ill, but I think that some of them, their brains are, because their brains are damaged, right? There's nothing wrong with them, like who they are as individuals. Nothing wrong with them, their consciousness. It's just the machine is damaged. Even patients, with dementia and things like that. So it's nothing wrong with them. It's just the machine itself, the CPU is damaged, and now they're perceiving things that the rest of us don't perceive. Does it mean that what they're seeing isn't actually there? I don't think so. I think that they're seeing things that we're just not capable of seeing because our box is, for the most part, most of us anyway, our box is like firmly in place, and we only have these like 5 senses, these 5 windows, these 5 slits to see out of. So I absolutely believe that they are seeing things that we can't see, and it's just overwhelming for them, right? And so I've always kind of wanted to like sit and kind of talk to people who are considered mentally ill, just to get an idea of like what they're seeing the cracks or where the lights gets in. Yeah, that reminds me of a Doctor Who episode, the cracks in the universe. They were like able to like see like other universes were like seeping through, and I think that that's like the premise. You know what I mean? But yeah, it would be interesting to respectfully sit with these people that we have sort of ostracized, you know, in our society and say, well, they're crazy. I hate that term. And we use that term all the time. And there's so much fear around that word too. Because like, for example, I love Fringe. Fringe is a great show as well. But there are people who like, they'll have these sort of wild experiences, right? Somebody just said, I see UFOs and hear things. We all hear things like that voice in your head. Like if I put out a video where I talk about the voice in your head, all right? That voice in your head that's always talking. That is an auditory hallucination. In Oliver Stack's book, Hallucinations, he talks about that. That voice in your head that everybody hears, it's a hallucination, right? And if it's causing you anxiety and things like that, you're fighting with that. Like I struggle with that, like depression, right? That you're not just depressed for no reason. Like it's that intrusive thoughts and things like that. We all grapple with that. So on a certain level, like one of my favorite shirts is an Alice in Wonderland shirt that says, we're all mad here. Right? So people will come on my page and say, oh, you're crazy. It's like, okay, we're all fucking crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like you took time out of your day to type out a negative comment and you don't even know what prompted you to type out that comment. Like you're mad too. If I'm crazy, you're crazy too. You get what I mean? Like think about how we just like constantly react to things without any basis or proof, right? It's just like somebody texts you and you read something into their text. You get it? And then you go, oh, this is what they really mean. You don't know what they meant. You just hallucinated. You just imagined what they meant and then you reacted like that's what they actually meant. That's crazy. And we all do that. But that's what the ego, right? The voice in your head drives you to do. You get what I mean? So I hope I don't miss your questions. If I don't answer it, just, you know, feel free to ask again. But do you think some hallucinations might be real? For example, on ayahuasca, right? It's a different reality. It's a different reality. You know, I'm not crazy. That's just label. And I hate labels. I really do. It's just, even the labels that we put on people, it's just a way to dismiss. I think Dave Chappelle said this. He said the word crazy is dismissive. And I absolutely agree with that. It's just that you just go, okay, you're this. Yeah? You're this. Right? And then you just throw the person away. You throw a whole entire person away. Slap them with the label. Throw their whole experience away. And then you have people who are having these very rich and profound experiences. Like we all know, like science says, neurologists, neuroscientists say that we don't all perceive reality in the same way. Okay? So science says this, right? That we all perceive reality differently. Okay? So somebody says, look, I'm perceiving a different reality than you. Oh, well, you're crazy. Okay, well, bitch, you're crazy too. Like, who determined what the norm was? And how many people are actually, like, living according to that norm? Like, what is normative? Is anybody actually normal? Or are people just suppressing aspects of themselves? Thank you, by the way. Somebody complimented the art. Are people just suppressing aspects of themselves in order to be considered normal, or out of fear of that label? Because I cannot tell you how many people DM me. It's a lot of people that DM me or comment that say, I think this way, but I'm afraid of being called crazy, so I don't say it. That's not cool. Like, I will never be okay with the fact that that's the society that we live in, where, like, there's a lot of people who think this way. There's a lot of people who think these things, or just, you know, like, certain thoughts just kind of come up, and you're just like, well, what if? But you take that and you suppress it because somebody said this is normal, and anybody that deviates from what normal is, I don't know who came up with the label of, like, or the definition of this is what is normal, yeah? But if you don't fit into this box of normal, then here's the label, and everything that you are, completely throw that away. Okay. Like, how does that serve society? How does that serve anybody? How does that serve the individual? And how does that serve you? You know? Yeah. It's just everybody that has changed the world everybody that has changed the world has been labeled crazy. It's just, it is what it is. And everybody that has, I saw this video on, I think on Instagram. Somebody asked me real quick where I got my shirt from. I got it off of Mercari, but I looked everywhere for it. I looked on eBay for it. I looked on TeePublic for it. Like, I needed to find this shirt. So if you could find it, like, go for it. Because it was like, it was hard to find a shirt like this. And then I just crossed out the A and drew in an E. But everybody that has changed the world, everybody, were thought crazy, because literally what crazy means is you're just thinking outside the box. I saw this post on Complex Instagram, somebody sent it to me. Appreciate you. But somebody sent me the post, and it was this guy who literally 8 years ago, he put out a YouTube video, and he said, guys, just buy $1 worth of Bitcoin. And Complex posted this on the Instagram page. It's probably still there. They posted like a screenshot of it. So 8 years ago on YouTube, he was like, guys, just buy $1 of Bitcoin. Just $1 of Bitcoin 8 years ago. And bet money that there were people in the comments like, you're effing crazy, you're this, you're that, calling him all sorts of names, right? So this is the box, right? And then he was out here like, who does it hurt to just put $1 on something, right? How does it bother anybody to just, okay, fine. Well, he suggested $1. But people took time out of their lives to insult this guy and abuse him. Now, imagine if he would have listened or feared that label, right? Now, this dude, the same guy, if you go in that post on Complex, he's having like yacht parties and drinking champagne, and he's wearing a t-shirt that says, I told you so. The label is dismissive, but it's also detrimental. I like to listen to people who don't think in the box, because those are the people who you should, I mean, I'm not saying just listen to everybody, but the people who are like challenging what is normative, challenging the status quo, those are the people who most of the time change the world, right? They're just ahead of their time, or you know what I mean, or like literally just like they're here to change things, right? And even you know what I mean, even you, if you catch yourself kind of thinking outside the box, don't doubt yourself. You're gonna get called names regardless, because there's people who are grappling with their egos. Like, their ego punishes them. If somebody's calling your name or insulting you or labeling you or whatever, I'm not a Pisces, I'm a Virgo. I'm a Virgo, guys. Next time I get a sticker. I've been asked this question like 18 times today. But if you're the kind of person that you're just like an out the box thinker, you know what I mean? Like, that's very sweet. If you're an out the box thinker, trust that. You're meant to do something profound. That's why you're capable of looking around and saying, hey, you know, things, why are we doing this? I love weirdos. Like, people call me weird all the time. I'm weird. Like, I love that label. If you Google the etymology of the word weird, it actually means, like, oddly enough, it means to control your own destiny. Look it up. The etymology of the word weird. Look that up. So when people say I'm weird, I'm like, yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, because I don't take that as an insult. Crazy, it is what it is. Like, but the person who's insulting you or abusing you, if they can look at you and everything that you are, right? If they can look at you and everything that you are and see, like, and only find like what they think is the worst in you, imagine what they're doing to themselves. Because keep in mind that people they don't even see other people. They only see themselves when they look at other people. So a lot of the times when people are that negative and they're lashing out and they're that critical, like, imagine what that voice in their head, that ego, is doing to them. And then just protect your energy. Don't react. You know what I mean? Like, don't get negative. Just, you know, if anything, you feel sorry for them, you know, because they're living in that space. But yeah, calling somebody weird, that's a compliment. I want a t-shirt that says weirdo. I'm going to make a t-shirt that says weirdo. But yeah, compassion. Compassion is important. Compassion is important. We are all programmed, you know, right? Somebody says something to you, you lash out. right? You got to defend the ego, right? Protect the ego at all costs. Like, and the ego is it's degrading, it's impermanent, right? So you get attacked, and then you feel that negative energy ball up, and then in order to protect the ego, you got to kind of push the negative energy out of the ego, out of the body, to the other person, but you're hurting yourself in the process, right? Why? That person is already, in order for them to say something to you, they're hurting you. I'm sorry, they're hurting themselves. In their attempt to hurt you, they're hurting themselves. So, is creating more important than relating, because that's what maybe at stake? I don't know if I understand that question. If you can kind of rephrase that so I can better explain it, better respond to it, I appreciate that. But I do enjoy the creative process. I strive every day to create in some way. Somebody asked me that yesterday. They're like, you're so, like, you have all this light, I guess is what they said. And then they're like, what do you do with all that negative energy? And I was like, why do you assume that I've got to be like, I have negative energy? Like, that within itself is a programming. But if you mean, what do I do with excess energy? I don't label it as negative. I put it in art, right? So thank you. But I create. So I take that energy and I create. I take that energy and I'm painting. I take that energy and I'm doing my podcast. I take that energy and I write, right? That's a better use of the energy, is not to destroy the self, but it's to channel it through art, right? Through some creative process. Do something with your hands. Don't consume, create. So that's what I do. Primarily primitive space shaped beings, enlightened spiritual beings. So I encourage the creative process. If you absolutely alchemy, absolutely, that's the right word. Absolutely alchemy. You transmogrification, you turn the negative into positive, but it's all energy. If you are spending copious amount of time, consuming, and you're feeling some type of way, try doing something creative. If it's baking, if it's writing, if it's drawing, if it's painting, even. Like, I didn't start off this good, and I feel like I still have a long way to go as far as where I'm trying to go artistically. But every day that I put that energy towards a creative process, I sleep better, I feel better. And I just I feel like that's what I've been, that's what I'm here for, is to create. I'm doing lives, even like my little videos and TikToks and things like that. It's just, you gotta expel that, that energy. Who is my father? Who am I? I don't know how to answer that question. I am who I am. So somebody says the box, I think facilitates our ability to relate to people in general. Balance may be critical. I agree with that. I don't drink alcohol. No. To me, what's the point? It's a toxin. And I'm not gonna put no judgment to people who do drink. It's just personally, I don't see the need to it. Hey girl, hey. Ashwagandha really do be hitting different. Ashwagandha? Is ashwagandha a mushroom? Interesting. But I don't put poison in my body if I can help it, and that's what it is. And it might be sort of hard to say that, but it's true. And if you look even in the media, like, it's so funny what is legal, what drugs are legal, and then what drugs are illegal. And the drugs that are legal are the ones that, like cigarettes, perfectly legal, right? And then look at the consequences of that over time. Alcohol, perfectly legal. You see it all the time in movies and TV shows and commercials and ads. It's like, that culture, alcoholism and drinking and all of that is like pushed so hard. It's pushed so hard. And the side effects of it and what it does, not just to the body, but to the relationship, to your life as well, that is sort of, ignored or whatever. But then, like, to talk about something that grows naturally in the earth, right? I've got to like sidestep and dance around like, oh, I can't really say this because or whatever, but this is just for me. Like I got to put all these caveats around something that just grows from the earth, right? That actually can improve your life, can change your life, that can, you know, in some cases they say that it's actually more effective than antidepressants, right? That I can't really talk about, but things that like destroy or bring negativity into your life, that's totally healthy, right? That's totally normative. That's totally, right? That's normal. You know what I mean? You gotta look into ashwagandha. But yeah, so personally I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't use marijuana. Nothing against it. I feel like just the marijuana that we have now, the THC levels in it are too high for my body. For me personally. I'm not telling you guys what to do with your life, but for me, the marijuana that's like on the streets right now, like it's too much. I mean, it's been sort of grown to be like really, really potent, and I personally can't handle it. So I just stick with the one thing that works for me. So that's my own thing. Somebody just said they hate the way alcohol makes them feel. You know, great. What inspires my art? So it depends. So on my TikTok, I actually talk about like consciously trying to tap into seeing into the future. So, and then kind of bringing that into the present. So borrowing ideas from the future. So I do a lot of that. But I also I spend a lot of time thinking about what are other timelines like, not only like presently, but what are the pasts of parallel universes? Like, what is their art like? All right, so this particular is a part of a series. I talked about this earlier, and I call it, you know, art from an alternate timeline. And this is from a timeline where misogyny does not exist and slavery didn't happen. So what would the paintings from like, you know, the 1700s, 1800s, that time period look like in a parallel universe where, you know, they didn't go through the atrocities that we did. So that kind of thinking is what inspires my art. Sometimes it's just something beautiful. It's just a beautiful face. Sometimes it's like the way fabric looks and the way light hits it, being able to capture that, the richness of it, that kind of thing. Beauty. Yeah, I just love beautiful things. People of color and the richness of the, you know, their skin tones and the way they reflect, like the skin reflects light. Love that. I just want to take it and you know, capture it. I just feel like there's not enough art that positively represents people of color, women of color, that makes you feel light. So that's kind of what drives me as well. So there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things going on. Have I seen parallels? I have not seen parallels. I've not seen parallels, but that looks like it sounds pretty dope. It's fairly talented and inspiring. Thank you. He's very kind. It's very kind. All right, guys. I don't know how long I've been on here, but I feel like it's getting kind of late, so I should probably like wrap it up or whatever. But it's been great. It's always fun doing the lives and, you know, talking to you guys, you know, in real time. Nice to see you. So all of you guys that have like been here this whole time and sat and listened to me kind of ramble on for hours, like appreciate you. Thank you. No, don't leave long. Well, I just feel like I don't really. Why do you sound white? Okay, I sound like me. I don't sound white, but thank you for your comment. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the, you know, the little gifts and all of that. That's awesome. Use more pine from all that's sweet. Thank you. Yeah, you guys have been great. Great crowd as always. Thanks for the great questions. Hope to see you again. Love listening to you. Thank you. I'll try to do it more. Don't react to that comment. It's okay. But yeah, I'll probably try to go live again sometime this week. I just feel like if I have something like profound to talk about, it'll be great. I'll be back soon. So I do appreciate you guys for stopping by. Thank you. Thank you for all your knowledge. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and thank you guys for all the great questions. Actually answered the psychedelic questions earlier. So, but I will try to put this live on my YouTube channel. And I've also answered that question as well. People of color. So anyway, I gotta like go back to work. I'm gonna paint. I'm gonna stay up pretty late painting. Gotta finish the painting I'm working on. No, don't feel bad. I will post the questions. I'll post this live on my YouTube. I'll be over the next couple of days or so. So, will I be on tomorrow? I don't know if I'll be on tomorrow. I want to finish the painting I've been working on, and I want to start a new painting as well. But I think I will definitely go live towards the end of the week. So I want to get some work out. But I will, if you guys have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please feel free. And somebody just mentioned the podcast, so I will be putting out a new episode on the podcast sometime this week as well. You see that painting? Let me get out of the way so you can see this painting. There's the painting. It just looks better in person, but yeah. Go ahead and you can check out my Instagram page. It's at Joli Artist. See more of my work, or joliartist.com as well. So yeah, check out my podcast, subscribe to my YouTube, and I will be going live sometime, like I said, the end of the week. So, but yeah. Oh, the painting I'm working on. No, I'm not gonna. I have to like pick up my phone and like walk over there. I guess I could. Do you guys want to see the painting before I leave? If I get like 5 people say they want to see it, then I'll walk you guys over there and I'll show you the painting before I like log off. That is, let me know. What's my pod? So I got 2 podcasts. One's an anthology. It's called Dark Oracles Guide to the Multiverse. It is 15 episodes. That's already done. Like it's just one and done. And then there's your one black friend. Oh, okay. You guys are responding. Okay. So you guys want to see? All right. So I'm going to flip the camera and then I'm going to show you guys the painting and then I'm going to like log off. Okay. And I think I'm going to flip it. How do I flip it? Am I going to flip it? How do you flip the camera? I don't know how to flip the camera. Okay, so I won't be able to see any of your comments. I thought I could just like flip the camera and then like still answer as I was walking, but I can't. So I will just turn the camera, show you guys the art, and then awkwardly log off. So I'll show you the painting. Wait, okay, I can flip it. So how do I flip it? Tell me how to flip it. How do I flip it? How do I flip it so that I can like turn the camera so you can see it? You guys laughing at me? Don't laugh at me. Oh, look, flip camera. Bam. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you guys for letting me know that was possible. Here's my little studio. My front camera is like... My front camera... I gotta fix this lady here. But check out this piece. So somebody in the comments was like, you need to paint more guys. So he looks kind of... I don't like what's going on there right now. But when I'm done, he's going to look awesome. And I've got this lady here looking regal. Look at her. Look at her eyes. I love this. I love her eyes. So I spent a lot of time on her face, a lot of detailing going on there. So eventually, like, I'm going to do her hair. And then he's going to look just as realistic as she is. When I'm done, I gotta work on the background. Thank you. I gotta work on the outfit, but I love the pose. Like, check that pose out. Yes. Like, she's like, yes. And I love that he's just in the background, like, what? Say something, right? Because he's got her back. So that's what I'm doing. So shout out to you guys saying, hey, you guys need to, paint more black men. So it's not, it's not done yet, but he's going to look as intense as she is when I'm done. Like, I need to add the detailing, like you see the detailing in the eyes and the lips and all of that. She looks hydrated. Yes. She looks well, like she's got some lotion on. Exactly. So, I have a ton of paintings of black women. So he's going to have more detailing. I got to put detailing in the eyes, and add a little bit more sheen to his skin. You know what I mean? But yeah, we're definitely going for the glow. I will paint more people, of color, but she's one of my favorite people so far. And I just love the pose. Like, her pose is just like, this is the pose right here. This is the pose right here. This is the pose right there. Like, all right, guys. I'm signing off. Thank you. Later. Yeah, that's that pose. All right. Love you guys. Bye.